Hi, I'm Carmel Fisher. You're watching the Sequire Spotlight. We are at the LD Micro Invitational live here at the Four Seasons Hotel in Westlake Village, California. With me, I have President and CEO of Todos Medical Ltd, Mr. Gerald Commissiong. Do I say that right?
Commissiong.
Commissiong. Gerald Commissiong. Got it. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, doing great. Thank you. Please, for our viewers, tell us more about Todos Medical Ltd with the ticker TOMDF.
Sure. Todos Medical Ltd. Started as a diagnostics company focused on developing novel blood tests for breast cancer. So the company's expanded beyond breast cancer into Alzheimer's disease and recently moved into COVID testing. And within the context of COVID testing, we do both PCR testing at our lab in Georgia, and we've also entered into a joint venture to develop new kinds of COVID tests around something called the 3CL protease. With that, a couple years ago, we've made a lot of progress and have expanded beyond just the diagnostics of the protease to also include treatments. And so we formed a subsidiary called 3CL Pharma, where we have not only this new diagnostic for COVID, but we have a supplement that we call Tolavid, that is a 3CL protease inhibitor immune support supplement, and a drug candidate called Tolavir, where we finished phase 2 studies in hospitalized COVID patients.
Wonderful. Of course, we all kind of just popping our heads out of the global pandemic that we all underwent. How are you guys, how are you guys getting by right now?
Well, for us, the global pandemic kind of became our business. So we built up, COVID testing business. We did $5 million in 2020, $12 million in 2021. We expect that business to continue to grow, really around kind of the movement and expansion of PCR testing outside now of just COVID, because there's so much capacity now, and they're realizing the uses for it. So we're almost done validating a UTI test for PCR, which will be very important because it's much better than the current test. So it can give you a better understanding of which antibiotics to use together in combination. And there's several other areas like that. And then we're also moving into long COVID testing.
What
which
is
something
long
that's becoming.
COVID testing?
Well, so...
or long COVID at least. What is this new term, long COVID?
Right. So it's actually not a new term.
Well, new to me.
Right. So it was coined actually in 2020. What happened is, people got COVID and then they didn't get better. And
got it.
There's a lot of people for whom, they either had severe COVID, it was believed, but now even mild or asymptomatic COVID is leaving people with virus still in their body that can affect them weeks, months, and even years later. So this is a new area. There's not a lot of long COVID testing, as you mentioned, but there is now a better understanding of it, and that understanding needs to be translated into distribution of tests. And so because we got heavily involved in long COVID around our supplement business and now our therapeutics business, we're kind of uniquely positioned to be able to take that kind of customer base that's using some of those products and then develop real robust testing, because long COVID can be disabling. It's believed there are about 22 million people in America with long COVID, of which 7 million are actually on disability. So it's having a macroeconomic effect. CDC came out about 2 weeks ago and acknowledged 1 in 5 people who get COVID will end up with long COVID. And
now is that regardless of vaccination?
Regardless of vaccination. Vaccination only reduces the risk of long COVID by about 10%.
And this is why you're now so heavily involved. How is that going to impact the reach that you think you'll have? Of course, we see there's a 1 in 5 people you're mentioning that will end up with this. So how are you planning on impacting that?
Well, we already are impacting it. So, one of the interesting things with our subsidiary that has the supplement is that the supplement's on the market. Most drugs, as they get developed, obviously they're all done within the context of an IND, under very specific guidelines of clinical trials. And when we put the supplement on the market, for which we don't make any claims, and it's not approved as a therapy, but it does have a mechanism, a 3CL protease mechanism, which is the same mechanism actually as Pfizer's drug Paxlovid, which is the main drug used for COVID. People started to pick up that this could benefit them, so they started using it prophylactically. I myself use it every day. People who got COVID started using it and kind of going online posting their results. And the same thing started to happen with long COVID. So now that it's on the market,
Right.
and people have started to use it and reported some benefit, it's kind of taken off a life of its own because there really are no other solutions for people with long COVID. And so we're actually learning a lot about the long COVID community and what's going on in long COVID as a result of these customer reports, case studies. Now we have over 6,000-7,000 people who bought our product. So we're going out to them with surveys to get an understanding of how they used it, and then we're planning formal trials, and that has positioned us really as one of the only options
Right.
for people with long COVID. So it's now that it's clear we have an impact, the question is how do we scale, right? And so in order to scale, we kind of have two barriers. One is kind of the credibility barrier, so we want to get more data, more information out there, better case studies, and then the actual distribution. And for that, obviously we need to go and raise some capital and expand. So we've got pretty clear plans to do that. We already had plans on the expansion with the drug version that we're moving into phase 3 trials, and so we're just accelerating the ability to do that with the supplement.
Excellent. You said you mentioned that you use this yourself daily, and I'm now curious as to your background. Why do you find yourself in this space? I think it's incredible that you've got this passion towards, helping us along through this journey. But where did it all start for you?
So I'm an engineer by background. Went to Stanford. I played football, and I actually got involved in biotech. And my father's a neurophysiologist, a PhD, so he worked at NIH, made some discoveries, and I started working with him. We built up a company, a few divisions, and I sold one of the divisions to Todos. And then when I got involved with Todos, the pandemic started, and we just happened to be very uniquely positioned insofar as we had a PCR lab that almost no one else had.
Right.
And we had, because of the Israeli connection, a lot of strong relationships into China, into South Korea, where they were mass producing tests that were not being produced here in the US.
Right.
So, the kind of ability to see that this was going to become a significant problem, and we paid a very close attention early on to the biology and what was happening with people trying to recover. And it became clear vaccination was not going to be the long-term solution because, coronaviruses mutate, and they mutate around selective genetic pressure, and vaccination creates a lot of that. So it was very clear there was going to be new variants. And what was also clear is that you're going to get reinfected, that just because I got coronavirus today doesn't mean 6 months from now I'm not going to get it again.
Right.
So those two things said to me, well, we need treatments. Vaccines are great, but if we're seeing that a certain number of people are getting long COVID, which is kind of like HIV insofar as it kind of hides from the immune system.
Oh, really?
And we're seeing that the body can get COVID over and over and over again. You kind of envision a world in which this thing is always around and never going away.
It's like a flu, the typical flu, right? I mean, is that where we hit it? Because I guess I could be more naive in the details. Of course, you're way more professional in the field than I am. But is it not something that eventually would just be, considered another flu?
Yes and no. Yes, from the perspective of, it's a viral disease that people will get. No, because the flu doesn't fundamentally impact the immune system. So what happens in the flu is your immune system overreacts, and then that is why you get sick. What happens in COVID is actually the COVID can have a very negative long-term impact on your immune system. And then if your immune system is impacted over the long term, it's not just impacted related to COVID. It's impacted related to everything. And that is a big difference because COVID actually makes you worse.
Right. Understood. Are there competitors in the space that you know of? I'm sure you do. And then what are you guys doing to kind of stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah, so in the immune support supplement space, in terms of 3CL protease inhibition, there are surprisingly are no competitors. I think one of the reasons for that is the scientist who developed these products is one of the pioneers in the space, and nobody really has the necessary assays to be able to qualify the material like we do, and we have all the IP on it. So even if they did have it, we would be in a proprietary position. From the drug space, of course, Pfizer's in the market, Merck is in the market, VERU just finished a hospitalized phase 2-3 trial that was stopped after interim analysis. The stock went crazy. It's over $1 billion market cap now. And that's kind of how we see our drug being able to go as we get into that next phase. And then there's obviously Gilead with their remdesivir drug. So those are, that's the milieu in which we're playing. We're playing with some of those much larger players, but we think we have a better product. And the science does appear to be on our side.
Right. Awesome. That sounds very exciting and promising. What are the short-term growth plans?
So we have kind of 3 distinct plans. On the testing business, we're going to continue to expand our COVID testing, expand into long COVID, and expand into other PCR tests. Okay. So that is, happening right now. That growth is happening. That's in the testing business. Then in the therapeutics/supplement business, we're really scaling the supplement and gathering information on how customers who have long COVID can best use it. We're putting out case studies virtually every week on different kinds of people and how they're using it and having benefit, and whether that benefit is 100% or 80% or 50%, because everybody seems to be different with the long COVID. It's not like a cookie cutter approach. 2, we have a dietary supplement business that is growing because we found our niche. It's not preventive. It's not acute COVID. It's really long COVID. That seems to be the niche, although those other 2 areas, we have customers that'll use it for that. And then 3, we have huge potential upside with a drug candidate for the treatment of hospitalized COVID, and that same drug will be used also in trials for long COVID. And so that is a unique kind of biotech pharma opportunity that could really change the landscape in terms of how we treat COVID-19.
Excellent. Where can we find more information?
You can find more information at our website, www.todosmedical.com, TODOS medical.com.